now present For the Record.
Just ahead, turmoil among Dane County's leaders. A key executive sits down with us one-on-one to respond.
What I'm open to is finding a way to not have to engage in endless negative back and forth.
Plus, a question of obscenity in schools. And what does it take to meet the definition?
If you or I were to hand obscene materials to a minor, that's a crime, and we could be charged with that crime. However, it's not a crime if it's done by a school official.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Naomi Coles. Deep divisions in Dane County over the last couple of weeks after Representative Shelia Stubbs' appointment to lead the Department of Human Services was rejected by the county board in a historically controversial process. The county executive is at odds with board leadership right now, with Joe Parisi appointing a co-deputy director position this week that does not need board approval. The board chair telling me this week this was a shock, and he believes it was an attempt to circumvent his leadership. Now, Executive Joe Parisi joins me now. Good morning. We have a lot to get over.
Let's do it.
I want to start with just reaction. You announced your co-deputy appointment, Gloria Reyes, earlier this week. What's been the reaction you've been hearing from the board, from members, from the community?
Yeah, well, from the board, I've heard some of the reaction you've heard. From the community, not much. I mean, there's a big difference between Gloria's appointment and appointing a director. I mean, maybe for context, if we back up, last year our director resigned, and so we appointed an interim director who was the deputy, still is, Astra, and she did basically two jobs, through the last part of the budget process and then early spring, and then we posted the position and started the hiring process, and we thought we would have the position filled now. So this is, as you know, the biggest department in county government, 800 employees, mental health, homelessness, housing, a lot of really important initiatives that they have to work on. And at this point of the year is when departments are beginning again to prepare their budget introductions. It doesn't get introduced by me until October, but the work is almost nonstop. So with the current process turning out like it did, and the fact that for the next several months we'll have that position open again while we do a new recruitment and hire a new director, we're lacking capacity out there. Astra's been doing two jobs, and so I brought Gloria in as an LTE, limited term employee, so it's not circumventing anything. It's not appointing someone director like we were just going through. It's bringing in some temporary capacity at management so people can just at the department just get back to work, have that extra management capacity, not have one person doing two jobs, and start preparing the budget as we do all the other work we do in county government and post and do a new recruitment for the position.
Did you speak with the Department of Human Services, so not the committee, but the department before making this appointment?
We gave them, we talked to the director before we did it, or the interim director, and let her know that this was coming on. Yeah.
So, if Patrick Miles was sitting here right now, county board chair, I had an extensive conversation with him this week where, again, you kind of addressed this, but I want to get a little further into it. The belief is, him, other supervisors are telling the press, telling the public, this feels a little bit like circumventing their authority after the other appointment was rejected. What would you tell them if you were face to face with them right now?
It's nothing out of the ordinary. We're bringing someone in on a part-time basis to help run the department, and we've never gone to the county board to fill a position with a limited term employee. That's just part of routine work, what we do. I think, more importantly, maybe than the back and forth of this discussion is, the county's been through a lot, the community's been through a lot in the last couple of weeks, and there's been a lot of back and forth. A lot of things have been said, but at some point, the back and forth has to stop, and it has to turn into just productive conversation, and someone has to say enough is enough of this arguing. I've been in this office for 12 years, and I think people know that my way of operating is not to engage in endless public back and forth. I think we need to return to more civil discourse. Look at the situation in front of us. The last appointment didn't go through, and so the discussion has to be, okay, how do we move forward? And so I'm doing a couple of things to try to be, productive and try to make sure that everyone feels okay about the process. Now, the process of appointing, so if we move from Gloria's temporary position and then look to how we move forward, filling the position, the process of appointing department heads in the county is similar to the city and similar to the state, where the governor governor will appoint his secretaries of his departments, and then the legislature approves or doesn't approve those. And there's no set in statute or in the Constitution process for doing that. It's different than the civil service process. Now, I think there are a couple of ways that we can move forward that everyone would feel better about. First of all, in the immediate aftermath, as we look at filling the next position, I'm going to engage with national recruiting firms, and we'll hire an outside national firm to do the recruitment, to select the candidates, to move them forward in a process that everyone's okay with. Now, I will say that hasn't always been the case in the past, and people haven't complained about it, but I'm trying to listen to what people said they didn't like about the process, and trying to address that. And I think longer term, you know, we should look at, maybe we need to make department head civil service positions. Right now they're contract positions, so they don't go through the civil service process. They go through any process, frankly, that the executive, the mayor, or the governor would like to. So I've asked the county's attorney to kind of map out, what would it look like? What would the process be for us to convert these positions to, you know, non-political civil service recruitments and appointments? And, you know, perhaps that's the answer too, because I think it's really important that we look at solutions right now moving forward. You know, we can keep rehashing the back and forth, but that doesn't help anyone. It certainly doesn't help our community. You know, when you look at what's going on nationally, what's been going on nationally with the back and forth and the lack of civil discourse. We see it at the state level. You know, county government's always been better than that, and we owe it to this community to do that. When we look at kind of the last few years, you know, you and I were talking a little bit about kind of, you know, the pandemic and how things have changed. It's the first time I've been back on the set, yes, you know, live and in person and not remote, which is great to be here. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of chaos nationally and in a lot of states. But in our community, while not everyone agreed on every decision, what we saw is our community coming together. We saw if people had disagreements, they worked them out.
Would a civil service position need approval from the board or any part of the county committees?
No, they would have to approve setting it up, what it would look like, and it wouldn't, because politics would be taken out of it, right? I wouldn't have anything to do with who comes up. I would ultimately be forwarded candidates to appoint. But again, that's not any different than any mayor, any other county executive, any other or the governor. You know, I didn't invent the system. This is how it is.
So would you be making the appointments, or just who would ultimately be appointing the person under civil service?
So ultimately, I would make the hire in a civil service, unless there's another way to do it. I mean, I'm open to doing whatever works. What I'm open to is finding a way to not have to engage in endless negative back and forth, because I frankly have a lot of work to do. I run a mega organization with a $500 million annual operating budget, 2,500 employees, 30 departments.
Running the county isn't a part-time job?
No. This is definitely your seven days a week, your 24/7 kind of job. And I do love it, but it's, you know, I don't want to spend time arguing. I want to spend time looking for solutions so we can address some of those challenges that I mentioned to you earlier.
Executive Parisi, excellent to talk to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this morning.
Yeah.
Just ahead, book banning creeping into the Wisconsin legislature. That's next.